Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get rolling since it is now 11:05. Hello, my name is Drew Stewart. I am the assistant professor of communication here at in the Department of Communication at Marian University, as well as the director for the Marian University Speech and Debate team. I'm in my first year doing a directorship, although I've been the director of debate for our program over the last 3 years. And I've competed in speech in high school and have coached all throughout, that time, as I'm sure many of you have. And I think I just want to start things off maybe this way with getting to know the folks who have just joined us. If you don't mind, just drop in the chat. If you competed in speech, what was your favorite event to compete in? And if you didn't compete in speech, what is your favorite event to coach right now? I'll drop in the things that I, in particular, like to compete in, which might seem antithetical to each other. But yeah, I was definitely all about the prose, all about the short story performance, and 100% all about debate. And especially in high school, it did not matter the form. I held no sort of, what's the word I want to use? Stigmas towards any form of debate. I just really, really wanted to argue with people and try to feel like I was more right than everybody else. Okay, so I'm seeing them come down here. ADS and Duo, LD, Debate by Trade. Okay, Impromptu Extemp. Chris, I see strong current events focus. So shout out to you. Cool. All right. So as you're thinking, as you're answering, policy, you coach public forum. Okay, awesome. Very good. A lot of debate folks here in the group. Let's keep getting to know each other. I'm going to go ahead and drop a link here in the chat to a poll, and you should actually see me share this poll on screen. If you don't mind following that link, and don't answer anything yet, I will prompt you, of course. Hey, there we go. All right, so you should see a poll everywhere survey up in front of your screen. Hopefully you do. If you do not, feel free to go ahead and drop in the chat. I see nothing, Drew. You're messing up right now. And as you can see, the title of this survey is, so COVID is real, how did it affect you? I really want to get a sense of what the survey says, just, how did it affect you? It's 3 very simple questions. And again, a lot of this is for us to just sort of like get to know each other. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. And if you would like to go ahead and answer the first question, how was your program most negatively affected by COVID? And, I offered some answers here. If you actually chose something in the other column, do me a favor, drop in the chat what the other is. I would be very curious to see in which ways COVID could have negatively possibly affected your program. If you're just now joining us, there is a link in the chat to a poll on whichever device that you're using. Go ahead and drop that link into the browser. It should take you to Poll Everywhere, in which you should be able to answer the question in the poll here in front of you. Let's see some of the responses that are coming across. Okay. Not offering a tournament, some decreased student participation, decreased budget, other, okay. Ooh, okay, virtual practices are difficult to navigate. Very interesting, very interesting. Let's see, let's refresh the responses, see if we got anything a little bit different. Not so much, not so much. For my folks who are, again, just joining, there is a link. Oh, yeah, okay, now the answers are switching around a little bit. There is a link here in the chat to a live poll that we are currently doing. The first answer to that poll, once you drop the link into a browser on your device, should be to the question, how was your program most negatively affected by COVID? It seems right now we're having a lot of decreased student participation. Good bit of decreased student participation. And if you answered other, do me a favor and go ahead and drop a little bit more detail here in the chat so we could see it. Okay, looks like this is where we're shaking out so far. Okay, very interesting, very interesting. If I could say something right now, very much so, a lot of the same things happening inside of college speech, a lot of the same concerns. Let's move to our next one. So if you're in the poll on your device, let's go ahead and switch to the next question. How do you feel about running a speech debate program during COVID? You know, how do you just like straight up feel about it? And again, if you answered other, go ahead and drop in the chat what your other answer is. If you're just joining us one more time, there is a poll link in the chat. Go ahead and copy that link, drop your answer in the browser, or excuse me, drop that link in the browser and go ahead and start engaging with the poll. I'll backtrack to our first answer to see if any of those have changed since we had some people join us. And let's go ahead and take a look at any answers that you might have right now about how do you feel just straight up about running the program. Okay, yeah, virtual tournaments, yuck. Yeah, okay, sensing a lot of good bit of that. Okay, if I have ice cream or whatever, you know, your fuel of choice is, you can do anything. I like that energy. You're so tired. Okay, cool. But it looks like many of you, nobody so far is like, this just isn't the year for speech. Let me see, let me refresh those responses. Yeah. It looks like many of you are pretty much in the first two categories. Let's drop down to the chat and see where we are. Took over a program at a big school, a team of only 3. We grew to 10 last year, but only 5 returned. Worried about numbers and growth. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's refresh maybe one more time. Okay. I want to go back to that first answer. Just see if it switched up at all. How was your program most negatively affected by COVID? And also shout out to you all who were like nothing negative. We're moving along. We're solid, baby. Again, I like that energy as well. Okay. And last but not least, what do you think you need to move forward? And I know a lot of these questions are broad and all that good stuff. Again, this is just a sort of like get to know you. So do you need financial assistance? Do you need to know how to learn how to run or participate in a virtual tournament? Do you need more conversations and collaboration? Do you just need, you know, open hands and open prayer if you subscribe to a certain faith? Maybe more ice cream, you know, all of that good stuff. Let's see how you're answering so far. Ooh, many of you learning how to run a virtual tournament. Many of you help convincing my students. Interesting. Yeah. And if I could say, so much of that is also what we are seeing in college speech right now. But one thing that I think maybe you all are having the benefit of in your community right now, that we are experiencing some disparate nature of here in college, is the more conversations, more collaboration. Just because, you know, we are maybe a little bit less regional than high school circuits are. You know, we have to go out of state a lot of times in order to get the good tournament that we need and get the engagement that we need. And so many of the tournaments on our schedule don't exist. Just don't exist. And so the idea that we need to talk to people, figure out what's happening, do you need resources? I would say that is something highly underrated in the college community right now. So if you all are finding you're having all the conversations and collaboration you need, shout out to you. Okay. So this is where we are right now. That's so interesting. And thank you all so much for providing some of that information. I'm going to switch my screen over and I'm going to start presenting. And I really just wanted to get that sense of where you are. So that way I know how to mediate some of, you know, the things I can give you in this presentation. Now, I want to open up that many of you said, I need to learn how to run a virtual tournament. And that was maybe your key thing. And I need help convincing students. Many of you identified those are like your 2 biggest things in order to move forward. So I hope after this presentation, you do find encouragement, and student engagement is something that we are concerned with as well. And while I don't know if what I'm doing will provide the exact path for engagement for your students, so much of the heart of this presentation is for me to open up what we're seeing in college and to share with you all how we're adapting so that we can create conversation and more avenues for collaboration amongst us. And so that spans resource sharing, learning how to run a virtual tournament, all the way to if you need college kids to come talk to high school kids about, you know, the virtual speech tournament really isn't that bad, like we can get over it. Even something to that arena. So let me just go ahead and jump in. Hi, that's my name. Those are all my credentials. I'm Drew Stewart, Assistant Professor of Communication, Director of the MU Speech and Debate Team. So let me start here. That's not me, obviously. This is my very, very, very good friend, my homeboy, Dr. Kyle Kellum here at Marian University. If you've ever met Kyle, if you've ever had the pleasure, you probably heard him from a distance first, and then had the pleasure of having a warming conversation with him sometime after that. Kyle, very recently, as in like June, over the span of that month, started off by coming to myself and my other colleague, the other two, us two full coaches of the team, and he said, "Hey guys, I think this is going to be my last year. I think like we're planning the last year for Kyle in speech." Then at the end of the month, he said, "Nope, I'm done. I'm good." And it's a very happy move for Kyle. He's doing other bigger, better things at the university. He just got tenure, right? So like he's pieced out, he's good, awesome. But that should tell you all what I inherited. Basically, I'm down a full-time coach because we did not replace somebody for my position since I got bumped up into Kyle's position. We are down an assistant coach just because assistant coach moved on, did some other stuff, and that's all good. It happens. We have the largest recruiting class that's ever happened in Marian's history. And we currently have a team of 25 students, and we're all online. And it's the first time that's ever happened before. So if you're feeling a little topsy-turvy right now with adapting to everything, let me just affirm, oh, baby, me too. Me too. Ooh, me too. Me too. But that being said, I think our community has done a lot to try to react quickly, even if it's not all put together quite yet. So before I move forward, I just want to open up for you all any of the information that I share with you all, whether it's good things that I've heard from my community or things that might have been a little disheartening from my community. They really start in two places for us when it comes to the college world. The first thing is I think it's biannual I'm sorry, it's every 4 years. There's a national developmental conference among the four large college organizations, and they're currently being referred to as the four families, which I'm like, we're not the mob, but okay, cool. NFA, PKD, AFA, and Phi Rho Pi. And the results of that national conference, from my perspective and as it relates to my program, were twofold. Both very confusing and disconcerting because a lot of folks just don't know what to do. And the other side of it is highly encouraging because some folks are like, okay, we don't know what to do. So let's just now build the ship and get it on the water and let's just see what it does. And we have opted to fall in that second category. And I can tell you all right now, Pi Kappa Delta is the first national tournament in the college circuit to say we will go completely virtual for our nationals. They're not holding out to go in person. They were the first national tournament to close in March of this year. So they led the pack in that regard. And they are also the first national tournament to open up and tell everybody we are going to be virtual, plan your entire season in that direction. AFA, NFA, and Phi Rho Pi still have not given us that kind of concrete information yet. And then the second thing is a 2020 host conference. And, I wish I remembered the acronym, but I don't. So I can say this. It was all about online tournaments, And it was hosted by Hofstra University and Nassau Community College in New York. If you want an example of their online tournament, how it looks, an invitation, and just information as it sits on SpeechWire, how they are communicating synchronous debate in an online tournament, I highly recommend just going and looking at the Early Bird Invitational, and I can send that information after this. Early Bird Debate Invitational happening September 26th and 27th. Their information is on SpeechWire right now. And that is, again, hosted by Nassau Community College. So if you want an example of a synchronous debate tournament, just how it looks in invitation, just how it sits in SpeechWire, these folks are definitely ahead of the curve. And so if you just want a little bit of an example, there you go. Okay, and so in further research, here are other folks that I spoke with. I have a compatriot at Cornell University who actually started some online little tournaments, scrimmages, all of that good stuff at the end of the semester, trying to figure out what the best tech is. I have a colleague at Simpson College, Dino Pape, who was not only responsible for helping conduct the Tournament of Champions annual invitational, you know, the big invitational with a whole bunch of extempers and a whole bunch of impromptus, and it's like elite of elite. He helped them navigate, create, and execute their online tournament to keep it going this year. He was also in the NSDA tab room this past year to help conduct their online tournament. So he gave me a lot of really good information. Yatli, which is an online speech and debate platform, which I'm going to talk about quite a bit here over the course of the presentation. They have been key in terms of our research, as well as SpeechWire. And there's something specific I want to highlight for you all, and I can, of course, send out this information afterwards as well. SpeechWire, the guy running it, Ben Stewart, if you ever hosted a tournament, which I know many of you have, you probably had the opportunity to speak with him. Totally rad guy. He has a series of fireside chats that he is releasing where he talks about different speech platforms and how they can work, different video conferencing platforms that you could utilize for speech tournaments and how they could possibly work with SpeechWire, and a whole bunch of other things about, you know, just virtual tournaments. And then finally, reaching out to you all and learning a good bit from you all. So let's keep going. So there are significant reasons for us to adapt. There are three major opportunities here. And so number one, I want to just open up for you all is navigating the tension of how to conduct a speech season safely. I understand, and we even maybe feel this impact to an extent as well, where we have a high amount of students that are around, but people don't really still know how to navigate being in spaces together safely, speaking loudly, right? Breathing on each other and everything else. And I don't know how to navigate that stuff as well quite yet. But again, I fall in the first camp of people that it's like, you know what, let's just try to build the ship as we're going. We're going to have to navigate that tension at some point, right? Like at some point, a speech season needs to happen. And even when we get to go back to normal, there will certainly be a phase of awkwardness where there's a group of us, or any of us rather at a tournament can get signals that everybody is doing things that are safe and won't make us sick and all that stuff. And I do mean when we get to go back in person, and we'll also get signals at that time that things are not okay and we shouldn't have done this in person. At some point we got to navigate the tension. And so I think leaning into the virtual tournaments, leaning into the online environment, leaning into the idea that we have to perform on a screen helps us navigate that tension for when we get to that real awkward phase. Second, there's greater accessibility. Long story short, I have been able to invite students who had to quit speech because they were too sick to travel, students with chronic illnesses, students with differing mental health issues, that traveling, competing, being in large tournament settings, the sensory overhaul of some of those things, especially for some of my students that that have autism, they now have greater accessibility and a means to compete and be in speech and give us all the good things that we want from them. So that is definitely an opportunity in these new virtual tournament models. And then finally, we ain't theater. We ain't a writing platform. We are not fixed to a certain form. We can take our speeches anywhere, and we can almost have audiences travel anywhere as well. And Yatli specifically as a platform offers more security than maybe Zoom, WebEx, 8x8 for including public audiences in what we are doing as well. So we just have more flexibility, more adaptability as speech and debate folks. So I want to start there. And so I don't know if you've ever heard of the singer Lauryn Hill. She had a great album in the 90s, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. She has a song called Everything is Everything. And that is pretty much what I'm telling my team right now. You know, we have to accept things as they are in the moment. Everything is everything. There is no more clinging to the in-person tournament experience, and there is no more waiting for the tournament experience to come back in person. We have to engage. We have to adapt right now. Why? Because the world didn't stop moving because of the coronavirus, even though maybe in some ways it felt like it did. But as you can see, we're picking stuff back up. I don't know about anybody else, but I was surprised that football started back this week. But I think that just goes to show like life is still moving, right? Life is still moving. And so how do we sort of come to an acceptance of as things are, that our bodies and our performances and our teaching are no longer online versus in person? It's all one thing. I think we just have to accept that everything is everything. Everything is everything. And so that's really the spirit that I want to move forward with. So I want to give a quick shout out to my assistant director of forensics, Dr. Michael Bauman. He's a Marian alum. He is a slam poet, championship slam poet here in the city, as you can see, as well as a fantastic scholar, rhetorician, writer, queer scholar, which is very important to have here at Marian University. And Michael specifically brought up the idea of virtual tournaments. I don't know if that's going to be fun for our kids. I don't know if that, like, an entire year of that is going to be everything that our kids want. But at the same time, we have to do virtual tournaments. Like, that's what competitive speech and debate is. We have to do some sort of competitive setting. And in some ways, it does need to feel like it once was. And so this elucidated two large needs for us. The first one is that we need engagement past the virtual tournaments, because it just doesn't give you the same mojo as the in-person tournament, right? The idea, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, that you're not in the place with the people, seeing the posting, going to the rounds, having the conversations, right? Like the tournament is in so many ways the best teacher on a coaching staff. You know, sometimes we rely on the tournament to teach lessons for us, and we rely on the community of judges and other people to see our students and share those things. So we need engagement at tournaments, and so we still need to have tournaments, but we need engagement past virtual tournaments. We need other ways in which students can not only interact with audiences, but feel fulfilled as they are sharing critical things about their identity, their values, their interests, you know, all of that stuff. So I'm with you. If you're like, virtual tournaments are kind of whack, yeah. And so as it relates to Marian University speech and debate this year, there's kind of a balance. We both have to sell the virtual tournament experience, but we also have to give students other ways to flex their speech and debate oratorical muscles for other audiences. And so that really moves me down to the second need. The students need to see themselves in the community. And that's the real benefit of the in-person tournament, as Michael and I were discussing. They're not going to get that. And even as it relates to campus, right? There's so much new normal to adjust to. We can't even gather students in one room together because we are so fixed for space here at Marian. We're fighting over big rooms, right? And so we're doing all kinds of things to try to branch out and give students other ways to engage. Okay, so I actually want to stop here for a moment, and you saw an image sort of pop up there. That is one of our awesome students, my good friend Julian Santos. Before I show this video to you all, which actually I'm not going to play it here, I'm going to drop a link in the chat, because when you share the video, it's a little bit nasty, it's a little bit crispy, but it's a very, very fast one. This is what I mean in terms of different forms of engagement. We all have to be on screens this year. No matter what, we're all performing in virtual tournament settings, or we're going in that direction. Even as it relates to our classes, there's a heavy amount of screen time. And as we are seeing right now, just as it is an important skill to be able to communicate well in person, interpersonally, those skills are just as important online. Again, everything is everything. There's no one from the other. And so we are going to increase our digital presence. We are going to do that this year, and we are even going to get our students involved with that as well. So in terms of increasing our digital presence, I want to show you all just a small example of this. And I show this to you not as a means to say, like, this is what you got to do, but to just open up your imagination a little bit.
What does it feel like to give a speech? For me, when I give a speech, it's taking myself out of my daily life, my routine or whatever, and stepping into someone else's story, someone else's life, someone else's problems and issues, and using their voice through myself to advocate for a certain thing. My team members are like my family to me. We go through bad times and good times, but we go through them together. So
So here's why I show that to you again. That's something that our program has not produced this year or really ever before. You know, we've maybe done like a little promo thing here for the Marcom office, or you know, somebody has reached out to us to do a video or be in a video. But in terms of producing that sort of thing ourselves, that's unique. And let me tell you all how that works inside of our program. Julian Santos was a part of doing that video from the production phase all the way to appearing in it. That's one of his events this year. Regularly creating video content is one of Julian's events. So that would be just the same as him working on his poetry all year round. And by the way, in that video, he's doing a POI. But that being said, right, that is how our student engagement is working a little bit differently. We are thinking in terms of not strictly about events at a tournament as it counts for student engagement, because we all know that sometimes the tournament doesn't provide the best student engagement depending on the experience, depending on what the student is looking for, what they're open to. So in terms of communication abilities and avenues for communication, this is one of the ways in which we are trying to engage our students in a way that still utilizes speech and debate performance. So you see, he's performing an actual event on video, but the production of the video is equal to the event that he will be doing at a tournament. And so when that comes into the routes for adaptation, here's what we're doing. We are redefining program engagement. So not only will students be doing media, just like they do speech or debate, but we will also have regular events. And just like somebody going and competing at a tournament counts as an event for them, competing or performing at an event counts as well. And I'll stop there and I'll tell you why. Because in the wake of the coronavirus, the messaging that we have implicitly gotten from the Marian administration, and again, a lot of the confusion that happened from the college speech world basically said, you're either going to be paralyzed or you're going to have stuff for people to engage in. And so the whole plan here is to have stuff for people to engage in, not only our students, but outside audiences to come into. And so something I'll extend to you all as well. We are going to have multiple events throughout the year in which we will create access to virtual audiences to attend and actually interact. So next week, for example, next Thursday, we're going to have a debate showcase on Constitution Day. We're going to talk about voting, or rather argue about voting. And the audiences that will be there will be not only invited to provide feedback, right? Like actual feedback as the debates are going. The debaters won't read the feedback, but the audience will get to interact with each other. But they will also get to vote on a winner or loser at the end of the debate. And so in that way, still functions as competition. And in terms of student engagement, you make your classes go to that thing, or you offer it to other classes to attend. All of a sudden, you've created outside engagement, utilizing the skills that you normally cultivate in speech and debate for competition. The second route to adapt is just choosing a platform and going forward. And so for us, we have hedged our bet on Yatly. I'll talk about why here in a moment. And then third, reaching out. And so obviously, that's a little bit of what I'm doing right now. So when I say reaching out, I just want to remind you all, talk to the other people around you to get different ideas about student engagement. Again, if your students are like, I don't really want to do virtual tournaments all that much, whether they're synchronous or asynchronous, there might be other ways to engage them. Or if they're doing a recording for a synchronous tournament, there might be other ways to utilize that recording on social media platforms or within the classroom, or just something else where that student, their speeches and that advocacy goes past just the tournament setting. And so let me talk about Yatly here for just a moment. I promise you, I'm not trying to like sell you on the software. I don't care if you end up using Yatly or whatever it is after that. But here's why we are using it for three big reasons. One, the tournaments that are on the schedule right now, most of them use Yatly, and we don't have to travel to them. So we're able to go to the tournaments by just committing to the software. So there's that. Number two, I have received awesome customer service support, and the pricing is very competitive. relative to Zoom or WebEx if and only if your tournament offerings are minimal. So if you're trying to do like 5 tournaments in the year, it's going to cost you. If you're doing 1 tournament, then it's not that much difference cost-wise than doing Zoom, or yeah, it's not that much difference cost-wise between Zoom or WebEx, even though it is a little bit more expensive. But here's why you're paying a little bit more for it. It is both actually built for speech tournaments. So the rooms and the layout that you see on a screen, for example, for a debate round, are actually already built to have a screen for one person, a screen for another person, and a screen for a judge, because the assumption behind the software is that everybody can't be in the room together. So it already gives you a lot of different ways to navigate whether or not your competitors at the tournament are actually with their teams or together with another person. Yatli gives you a lot of agency and a lot of freedom around that. Plus, I can host a tournament, bring people in, and it doesn't cost them to compete at my tournament. So I might pass along the cost to them in an entry fee or something like that, but it doesn't cost them anything to compete at my tournament. Finally, way more security. Way more security than and it does rival Google Meet in that respect, but of course Google Meet isn't built for speech. The way Yatli works, it's no tabulation software. There is no judge management in that thing as well. It essentially works as the building for your tournament. So you are charged for how many people occupy the platform for the duration of the tournament, right? So if you have a 2-day tournament and you think 100 people are going to be there both days, that is the formula in which you would be charged. And so it syncs in with SpeechWire or another platform. Or if you have an in-house tabbing software, like you just have a bunch of Excel sheets, it can also work in concert with that too. So a lot of flexibility with that platform. And that's why we've hedged our bets in that direction for those 3 reasons. Okay, so just one thing I want to open up for you all. Like I said, Marian is currently like fighting over some space to get all my kids in one room. So for our first ever team meeting, which happened in the first week of school, we had everybody separate out in a large circle, and we went to Virginia A. Fairbanks 100-acre park. We have been to that park like 5 times, and we just finished week 4. Like, we're not even a full month in the semester yet. We started August 17th. I've used this park so much as team meeting space. But again, that is the different kind of student engagement that we're talking about. We are moving off campus if possible. We are utilizing the amazing outdoor spaces around us in the city if possible. And it's really about bonding, doing team fun stuff in those spaces. Because we didn't get the big team retreat like we always get at the beginning of the year. And we don't just get opportunities to see and be together and cluster in one space. So we're using the heck out of outdoor spaces. Okay, so getting close to the end here, moving forward in the digital world, I'll just open this up to you all. All of our events will be streamed through a YouTube channel. And so we are developing a YouTube channel for the Marian University Speech and Debate team. Not only will our performances for asynchronous tournaments live on that channel, they'll be unlisted, so you can't find them unless you have the link. But our public performances, our public events, things like that, will also be held on YouTube. So when I say we're leaning into that digital presence, I mean, we're doing it. And when it comes to our schedule, the first 2 tournaments on our schedule are asynchronous. The rest of the ones so far are synchronous, whereas our national tournament will have both synchronous and asynchronous elements. So when I say we're leaning into to performing on screen, I mean, we're doing it hard. And so when I think about my tenure in this whole thing, I visualize it somewhere in this. So right now we're online, we're either synchronous or asynchronous when it comes to the tournaments. I think when we're able to come back, whether it's, vaccine or herd immunity or whatever the thing that happens that helps us, finally say, yep, let's open things back up. I think we as a community, and I'm speaking for college, will go back hard in a way where we might even get like unhealthy with the practices because we missed each other so much, right? Like we might overcommit, over travel, overdo things. And then I think the third phase of the tenure in my tenure as director there will be some mix of both. we'll come to a place somewhere in the middle, because there are real benefits to doing things online, as I'm sort of talking about, because again, we have to adapt and cultivate this skill for our students. Coronavirus has shown us speaking on camera is an invaluable skill. Second, we love the in-person tournament stuff, right? Like, yeah, we all want to go back to that, but I imagine there can be a mixture of the two. And so here's some stuff that I didn't really cover in this presentation that we can open up here in the last sort of 15 minutes. If you have questions or concerns about this stuff, I do have some answers for these things and some things I could share with you all, but I wanted to talk more about just how we're adapting and open that up for discussion to see how you all are adapting, to see if you have any resources or things like that you think would be helpful for me. But, you know, technology needs and purchases. We just, like this morning, me and an assistant coach who luckily has some expertise in this area, we're able to convert our team room into a recording room. Performance guidelines and rules, they are very lax as it relates to the college world. And something that we are saying as a coaching staff is technology is the new suit. And then finally, what our actual competition and engagement schedule looks like, so you can see how much students are engaged and the kind of different things that they would be doing throughout the semester. So I didn't give you a bunch of details around that stuff, but I have answers for those things if you have questions in those areas. And then finally, I just want to stop here. We can adapt together. Let's collaborate. Let's talk about standards for online performance so that we can create, you know, clarity and equity for those things for our students and for ourselves. Let's share some resources with each other so we can get some relief. And then finally, let's work together to craft robust experiences for safety for our students, knowing that speech is a reliable activity that they can still engage in a world where so much is called into question. We have the ability to show our students we're still here, we can still do things. And I think a lot of it just goes in the directions of the things that I talked about over the course of this presentation. And so I'll just open up with this. I more or less invited myself here. I want to give a quick shout out and thanks to Dan, Fred, and Sarah for including me in this. Because I reached out to Dan and basically said, if you're having a dearth of tournaments in the high school world, let me know. I would love to provide support, whether it's you need a judge or two, or, you know, you need students as judges, and maybe that's the paralysis. People don't know how to mediate or don't know the first step towards online tournaments, and that's something that we can share. And finally, financially, if you have questions and concerns with covering the cost of an online tournament, I can impress upon you all right now, and just the research, it's not that expensive. It's not as expensive as housing people in the building altogether. And so there are ways in which Marian University can help you get your tournament up and get your students competing this year. And so with that being said, I want to open it up to the floor. Any questions, concerns, or expressions? Okay, I'll stop there. So then I do have a question for everybody. What's the first tournament on your schedule? And is it synchronous or asynchronous? Aha. So, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. Okay. So there are a few of you who got some options. All right. And so I would say for the folks on the call, if you are in need of a tournament and you don't have one, and you're like, maybe I could host one if I had some help. Hi, I'm here to help you. What you need, dog? I got you. Monster hosting some virtual debate, absolutely. And I also want to open up for you all. I've actually been able to make contact with Concord High School, and I believe we'll be helping out their tournament. And even though I don't have the concrete date in front of me, that's somewhere at the beginning of October. And so that one's you know, we're talking about stuff, but that's definitely an offering that we are interested in collaborating on and helping that thing get up and going. Okay. All right. Does anybody here, go ahead and answer yes or no, have questions or concerns about technology? Like just anything about it. I would love to see maybe some of those things drop in the chat. Whether it's like what did you buy? How much did it cost? You know, what were your first purchases? You know, differences between things like that.
Hey, Drew.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing the workshop, by the way.
Sure.
So I saw there at the end you were talking about YouTube, and one of the things that I had an idea, and I was talking to other coaches about it yesterday, was using like SpeechWire or using the NSDA's tab room software, which is, I think, free to high school students.
Yeah.
And in the place of where students put their titles, like just putting their YouTube links.
Mm-hmm.
And don't know if what your kind of experience, if you guys have done asynchronous, what's kind of been the experience with that?
No, so we haven't done our first asynchronous tournament yet. It's coming up the final weekend of September, and it's the one that Western Kentucky University annually hosts. And so they're still doing an LD synchronous portion. And so that's actually a trend we're seeing. Debate is by and large going synchronous. Whereas, and even to an extent, at a asynchronous IE tournament, the limited prep speeches even maybe have some synchronous elements to them where somebody has to sign on for like an hour and have somebody in the tournament actually mediate and record the speech, and then they send that recording to the judges, right?
Yeah, my thoughts were like, you have students, and it would definitely have to be one of those things where I have students register early, make the deadline early, have everybody like, if I could say like, if deadlines for entry are Monday, that means like the entry with the students YouTube videos due on that Monday. That way it gives you plenty of time to like navigate and figure out, because the big thing is going to be the judge portion of it, right? So it's like, how do I ensure that judges get their ballots? And so I know SpeechWire used e-balloting last year to deliver ballots. So, and I know in college you guys do a lot of like if you use SpeechWire, you post the breakdowns on that. So I'm thinking that's probably how I would do it to, do the postings of the final round, and then maybe post a Zoom link for the final rounds or something where the judge is actually in the Zoom room.
Yeah.
The videos are playing and the students can watch each other there.
Yeah, I can give you, I think, even though we haven't been through our first tournament yet, I think I can give you a pretty clear picture of how our next 2 weeks are set because we're going to an asynchronous tournament. So next weekend, we actually have a giant recording and workshop weekend where we are essentially signing off and doing our tournament entries. And we're taking next Friday night, all day Saturday, and Sunday afternoon to do this entire thing, because essentially we are pushing our speeches and events across the finish line for recording to have them ready for the tournament that next week. And so our plan right now is to have our recordings somewhere done pretty much around the 20th and 21st, because our recordings are due on the 22nd. And so that's a Tuesday, I believe, in the last week of September. Judges will judge asynchronously by, you guessed it, having links provided to them directly via e-balloting on SpeechWire. So you're absolutely right. Like, they'll get an email. And so a link will then be tied to a student and then a rank and a rate. And like I mentioned before, all of those links are unlisted. And so judges get Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to judge all of the prelims. And there's a time on Friday in which all of the stuff is due. The tab, and I believe the tournament has not opened up that they would like accelerate the tab or anything else like that if the judging happens early. I think they're giving people like a full 3 days and won't do anything until the 3 days are over. And finals will happen that Saturday. Right now, we're not seeing anything from asynchronous tournaments about doing separate recordings for prelims and finals. Right now, it's the same recording throughout. And so I think that also means in terms of limited prep, that's one topic, one speech for the entire tournament, right? So not even as limited prep as we once experienced. And then award ceremony TBD sometime that weekend, and we don't really know what that will look like yet, whether there's a synchronous element, somebody records a video, it's an email or something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much how it looks asynchronously for us right now. And so the plan to get us ready for that, We do have a main recording room, but we will, like I said, next weekend, block out multiple rooms, workshop a lot of stuff, coach a lot of stuff, essentially get it tournament ready, know what it looks like before it goes on camera, record it on camera. And like I mentioned before, our tournament standards for IE performance, in terms of lighting, video, what needs to be shown, very broad. The rules are pretty lax. Right now, the biggest rule is you can't introduce any sort of visual elements that you couldn't do in person, right? That's probably the biggest rule that people have to stick by right now. You can't introduce any visual or any auditory elements, any editing, stuff like that, that you couldn't also model in person. And so that being said, yeah, it's just straight up like speech performances, but I'll throw this out at you. In terms of like zooming in on the camera, or in terms of the different kinds of lighting that you're allowed to use, or the quality of camera, or whether or not your competitors have separate microphones versus you using the laptop mic, that stuff is not in conversation. And I imagine the norms will be setting a lot of those trends for us. So as we are adapting to competition, and just like what the online tournament looks like, I think that actually says nothing about what the actual competitive outcomes will look like at a tournament. So I hope it's helpful.
Are you okay with her?
Let me see. Christine. Sure. Hi. Yeah, great. Yeah, sure. I'm going to go ahead and just drop my information here. Just in case you have any questions, concerns, you want to email me directly. I mean, there you go, folks. Any other questions specifically about virtual tournaments, what that actually might look like on the other side? I could even give you maybe some clarity on like what it might look like on your screen. And I can open up for all of you. For the judging, coaching side of things, what I've heard from my compatriots so far is basically treating it like a class, like sit down for an hour and just block it out and do those speeches and provide that feedback, and don't try to do it in between other stuff. Otherwise, the virtual tournament will feel hard to compete in, to judge in, rather. Yeah, and I've even gotten feedback from them that says, don't judge like too fast or too slow. If the tournament allows you X amount of days to break it up, break it up. Like, you know, watch your speeches a little bit here, watch your speeches a little bit there. Most ballot softwares like tabroom.com and SpeechWire will let you exit, save, and come back as long as the ballot still isn't like submitted. So that might depend on like when the ballot time is actually submitted, but those are some other things that I've gotten as well. Cool. Well, let me open this up for you all as well. If you have any interest in coming to and just opening up for your students any of the events that we will be doing this year, like I mentioned, we're going to have multiple debate showcases here in the fall semester. The only thing that we're not providing a virtual audience for, which I guess does require travel to Marian, is a large outdoor performance individual events thing. We have like giant tents that we've rented at Marian. It's like we poured all of our money into stinky hand sanitizer, plexiglass, and masks with the logo branded on it, and a very large tent in the middle of our campus. And so we're going to perform and do stuff out there and just bring performances to the public. If any you and your students would like to just roll up, meet and talk with us more about, you know, just what we're doing. That is not only another example of engagement, how we're trying to get our students just excited about speech and performing in different ways, but it just offers us a good opportunity to collaborate, and we can talk about your possible tournament. And if you need support, if you need judges, you know, let me know. So with all of that being said, any other questions for the good of the crew? Any other concerns, comments? Okay, last shout out I want to give then is to my good friend, Madame Breezy Fox. Thank you so much for your assistance in preparing for this. You are a wonder, and thank you all so much. I really appreciate your time. Cool. Peace, everybody. Take care. Thank you so much. Later.
Hey, was my mic off at some point during that?
I think your mic was off like for the majority.
I'm sorry, I meant like, was my mic on accident at any point during that?
On. No, I don't believe so, man. I think you were good to go.
Okay, because I was having a conversation with my wife, and then all of a sudden I look over and I see, I was like, oh, the mic's on. I'm like, so I hope, because she's getting ready to leave. She's a photographer, and she was talking about her, she's getting ready to leave, and she's like, hey, you think I can fit this on the plane and everything? And
yeah, right on. Hey, man, I hear you. And if it makes you feel any better, I had a full conversation with my wife about the recycling before one of my classes started. And they were like, we heard you have just like a problem connecting Republic services right now. And my class like roasted me the entire time, man. So let me just affirm, like, I've definitely dealt with the tech issues, but you were good.
no, I figured you would have heard me if I was sitting there talking, but
yeah, right on. Hey, and by the way, Ronnie, I just want to say I recognize your name. Kyle has spoke very highly of you.
Okay, Kyle's a good dude. So me and Kyle we both went to Connersville High School, like many different years, because Kyle graduated, I think, like in late 90s, early 2000s from high school, and I graduated in 2011. So Kyle was coaching at Marian, I think, when I was performing at IUPUI, and then there was a year there where IUPUI, a couple years there where IUPUI had a program. After I left, like pretty much, I guess I left the right year because everyone left and the program kind of shut down. Yeah. So, and then so I just kind of talked with Kyle throughout the years.
Right on.
And coaching, and then last year I got a hold of him and was like, he and I were talking because I was at a Catholic school for a year, and we were considering going to that.
Did you go to the Catholic tournament, or?
I came as a judge. Yeah. Because my team that year, we didn't have a team yet. Right. And I was going to be for the next year, but I ended up accepting another job. So I was doing about that, and then last year I got a hold of Kyle and was like, hey, Kyle, it was important to me. I had a couple students. So my two students who qualified for nationals were in POI last year, and one is one was a Jewish girl, and another girl is a Black and Hispanic girl. And I was like, hey, look, like I kind of want my students to hear from somebody who's not just a white guy telling them I want them to hear from a diverse perspective. And so he and I were talking, and he actually put me in touch with Julian.
Awesome. Yeah, word.
So Julian coached my kids last year, before nationals, and they had a good tournament. My girl was like one away from breaking to the top 60, which was unfortunate, but just 1 point away. It's happened to me 3 years in a row.
Dude, that's so killer, man. I'm telling you, that's like the saddest like non-break that you get. Right? 1 point away to nationals.
Rounds, and they go like, and in one round they go like 1-6, and you're like, what the heck happened? And
exactly.
And so
exactly.
We're on completely different spectrums, and you're just like, if that judge had just given her a 5 instead of a 6, like, if it was a 1-5, we could have survived that.
That's what's up. Yeah. Oh my goodness, man. Wow.
So when I saw Julian, I was like, oh yeah, I worked with Julian last year, so cool.
Yeah. Julian's more or less a rock star on our team, as you could probably tell, man. Yeah. He is the truth. And wouldn't you know it, he did not come to Marian to do speech at all. He originally came to go to the seminary, stopped doing that, did band for a semester, stopped doing that. He was in one of my classes, and I was like, come on over to speech, man. You got chops, buddy. And man, he's been the man ever since. That's so crazy. You and Kyle like grew up together, and now you're coaching.
We didn't grow up together. We just grew up with the same.
Sorry, same high school though.
We went to the same high school, different
years. Same.
I think we had the same. I think my head coach was the assistant coach when he was in school.
I see. Gotcha. So there is a connection though. So you're at North Central now?
Yep, North Central here in Indianapolis.
Okay. So I actually have a student who joined speech this year, but she wasn't on the team, but she's from North Central. But I don't know if you know her. Allie Bunton, Buntin. Yeah, Alexandria Bunton. Yeah, she was very adamant. She's like, yeah, I thought about it. I think I had a friend who did it once. It seemed cool. I was nervous, so I didn't do it. And so
Well, this is only my second year at North Central. Like I said in the chat,
right.
last year when I took over, the team had 3 kids on it, and the only reason they even had 3 kids was because, there was a teacher who was asked, like, "Hey, can you sponsor this club for a year and like just keep it afloat? Can you coach it? Can you, And she coached it for a year, and really glad she did, because otherwise it could have went to 0, and they could have never funded it again. So I came on. She ended up resigning, and so it worked out where I came and took the job, and so we grew it to 10 last year. But between people transferring schools and people not going to do it this year, and then one who's graduating early, is like my team got cut down to 5, and now I'm trying to rebuild it, and it's like the worst year for that. So
yeah, man, I hear that. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, you know what? That is actually a very similar issue to one of my colleagues at the university across town, and it pretty much happened to her like overnight. She went from a team of like 18 kids and full budget and like all of that stuff to overnight, like, 4 kids, a rusty bucket, and that's what she's kind of dealing with this year.
Down 2 days before our fundraiser, and so
wow.
And so we didn't get to do our fundraiser, so we ended up actually losing money on the fundraiser because we had to pay for the shipping for the stuff to come in and to go back.
Of course you did.
We lost money on the fundraiser because we shut down 2 days before. So I'm dealing with smaller funds this year, smaller team. It's just like,
Well, I'll just offer this to you, Ronnie. I mean, hey, man, you stayed on the call, so this might be your benefit. So I said I'd offer financial support if you want to run a tournament. I'll offer this to you directly. You got a small program. You're trying to keep things going. If you need financial support for entries, let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, straight up, man. I'd be more than happy to do that, because again, like, we just need to keep the thing going. Like, people want stuff to do. Students want stuff to do. Even the students who have come to me, like, we started off with 27. I had 4 people quit. Many similar reasons that you're sharing, right? Like, nah, I don't want to do it. It's right. Virtual tournaments. Yeah, I'm just of the attitude, like, I hear that, but I also think if you stick around long enough and you just get to see the stuff work, it might be okay. Right,
awesome.
You might actually be sold, and and offer this to you out too, if you ever just want a North Central alum, even though you don't know her, to come up and talk about speech stuff and whatever, or like talk about college, Marian, whatever, just to direct for your kids. So, yeah, we can definitely do that.
I was just thinking, like, I would really like to do a lot more alum showcase type stuff, and even if she didn't do it in high school, like being at Marian, like she could talk about like speech and debate and, its importance and stuff like that, and how she's a student over at Marian. And I think that will, do well. So maybe I can get her to do like a little 60-second Instagram blurb that I can,
yeah, man,
or something.
Heck yeah. You know what? That's a great idea.
So just D Stewart at Marian?
Yeah, just D Stewart. You got it. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Cartoons.
Yeah, she's currently doing a poetry program about the use of tear gas in immigrant detention centers. So, yeah, if you want somebody to come over and perform some heavy, I got somebody for you. Yeah, I got somebody for you. So, yeah, man, I think that might be just a little bit of everything that I have for you. Thank you so much for sticking around and for the conversation. It was really good to get to connect with you.
Awesome, man. Thank you. I appreciate what you did today.
Oh, yeah. Hey, no worries at all. Take it easy. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Peace.